Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. We continue our conversation with Republican Senator Declan O'Scanlan. One of the groups that is targeted the most by scammers are senior citizens. They're more susceptible. If you look at the statistics, they are targeted more than any other group. You have a bill that can help prevent this?
Well, it increases penalties. So a lot of times you put out a bill, actually most of the time, when you put out a bill that's going to punish people, you're hoping that it deters the behavior in the first place. So there aren't victims, and so we don't have to punish perpetrators. So we increase the penalties. If you purposefully target seniors, which is happening, no question, and I get it. It's like I can't remember whose quote it is, the bank robber, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
The seniors have most of the money, by the way, and they're most vulnerable. There's actually a name for it, and age-related fiscal vulnerability, I think don't hold me to that, but I think that's a term now. And it's even seniors who don't show any cognitive impairment. As we get older, I guess I can include myself in this category, as we all get older, there is something that makes us more vulnerable. And you see it over and over again. There's a story not long ago, a woman who is sharp as a tack, I think in her early 70s, fell prey, and she looks back on it. She was interviewed, and she has a table filled with gift cards that this person on the phone and on her computer who said she had $30,000 from a bank account robbed, she had to give them money to get her money back. And she's like, I can't believe I fell for that.
The shame of it, a lot of this is love and trust. And we've had people on the show that deal with this on a daily basis. And that's one type of scam, the phone scams, and there's the internet scams as well. But the number one type of person that scams the elderly are their own family members.
And that is tragic, and they would fall under this. We want to send a clear message. If you get caught targeting senior citizens, the hammer's going to fall. Every infraction, if it's a third degree, moved up second moved up to first. So you would have a presumption of years in jail for many of these infractions. So don't do it. These are the most vulnerable people, and quite frankly, look, I don't want to say it's better to rob from certain people than others, but these are folks, they have made their nest egg. There's no way to build it back. They're not still working. They don't have decades to recover. This can have them thrown out of their houses. As vulnerable seniors, it's disgusting. And our recognizing this as an increasingly common offense and a completely offensive offense, it's a good thing.
What does it do? Is it a penalty, increases the penalty?
It increases penalties across the board for people that particularly target seniors and the disabled. The disabled can be particularly vulnerable as well. So if you go after those folks, we're pretty specific, we're coming after you.
I can't imagine this isn't going to pass, right?
I think it will. Yeah, we've got a lot of folks signing on now. It's timely because it is being talked about, and this vulnerability is being recognized. So it's a good time for this.
After Newark, New Jersey, after the water crisis there, you acknowledge there's a problem with lead in water and lead in the pipes in this country, lead pipes.
In the country, yeah, I was going to say, not just Newark, in the state, but in the country as a whole. It's an infrastructure tragedy, actually.
And so there have been some proposals on replacing lead pipes throughout New Jersey. It seems like you were reluctant on it.
Not reluctant to solve the problem. And I want to praise Troy Singleton. Senator Singleton is a good friend and has a bill, and he's the first person to really deal with this because no one can figure out how to do it without massive tax increases or fee increases.
Because it'll cost a fortune.
It could cost billions. So we need to recognize what the numbers are and then in the most efficient way possible, figure out how to fund it. Now, the problem is you have some of these water systems, particularly some of these smaller municipally owned systems that kick the can down the road. You can't go back to the people that kick the can down the road and take all their money and figure out how to make the problem better. You're going to have to find this money somewhere. But we need to be absolutely crystal clear on how much it's going to cost. And then in as efficient way as possible, exploiting federal money that's available, implement the solution. I have some disagreement with the way Senator Singleton has initially proposed. He just got a letter from me yesterday proposing some differences. So I'm hoping we can come together on a solution that we both back. But there is no daylight between us in recognizing the issue, and I completely praise him for taking it on. I don't want to dwell on the fact that I happen to disagree with some aspects of his
So I would let me see if I can sum this up. So you agree that eventually, not now, there has to be an overhaul of the water infrastructure system. However, that is that's not cost effective to be able to do all that now. So do you want to go into certain areas?
Well, sooner rather than later. So because there are children who are drinking this water in places where some places they know there's lead, other places there are children drinking this water where we don't know, or where there's some uncertainty. These children will be negatively impacted, and they will cost society
But the age
money.
of the pipes will tell you how old.
Well, but you don't know where there's lead.
That,
Sometimes
right?
you don't know whether there's lead buried. You don't know whether the service line is made of lead or something else, or copper.
Previous to a certain year, almost all of them were.
Well, not necessarily. And then there's those areas. There's a gray area of, I think, 10 years or so where a lot of housing was built. We just don't know.
Right.
So you've got to assess. We don't know right now. That should be put on the table. There are kids drinking water that has lead. I don't want to set people's hair on fire. We don't know enough. Let me put it that way. There's areas we don't know. We need to do the assessments. That's one of the very first things that I would suggest we do as a standalone bill. Let's force an assessment first. There'll be some costs involved in that, but while we deal with then how to pay for it. That way we can get a better handle on how much it's going to cost and explore different options of how to pay for it.
I was up at a lab that tests water up in North Jersey, and I forget the name of the lab, and I apologize for that. But I was talking to the guy that runs the lab, and he said, it was mandated the school districts around the state send samples of water so we can test them. There's no teeth to that.
No.
And because of that, most of them are not doing it. Should that be revisited?
There's no question. Look, you got to put teeth in this stuff. And, excuse me, you can't have school districts run away from this obligation. Burying your head in the sand is not an option here. When children's long-term health is involved, it's horrific that you would go out of your way to avoid accounting for what's in the water that children are drinking that are under your purview.
All right, to be continued. You'll come back and we can talk about
Absolutely.
the Energy Master Plan. Senator Declan O'Scanlan, Republican from the 13th Legislative District. That's in Monmouth County. Still to come on Jersey Matters, an historic baseball field in Paterson, New Jersey gets a facelift. We'll take you there when Jersey Matters continues.